So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. We'll get back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Thursday, February 25th. Hope everyone's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Thursday, February 5th. We are now only about 4 days away from the Yankees' first spring training game, and we are right around the corner from the MLB season starting. This is great. Baseball is among us, and that is great to say. I open it almost every podcast saying how great it is to see baseball back in action, even if it's just spring training. It's great to see a game. It's going to be great to watch baseball again. New season, new players, new chance to win another World Series for the New York Yankees. Hopefully they get that accomplished this season. That's obviously the ultimate goal. And obviously you have many goals throughout the year, but you obviously have the big goal of winning the championship, whether that's the World Series, whether that's the finals, whether that's the Stanley Cup, or whether that's the Super Bowl. Every team's goal is to win a championship, the championship in their respective leagues, and every other goal is, as many of them say, secondary. You obviously have many goals throughout the season, but your main goal is to win a championship. And if your main goal is not to win a championship, then you should not be coaching. You should not be on a team. Your goal is to win every game. Your goal is to go out there, try your best, win every game. Most of all, have fun, because you want to have fun at what you're doing, and ultimately win a championship, whether that's the Stanley Cup, whether that's the NBA Finals, whether that's the World Series, or whether that is the Super Bowl, whatever the case may be, whatever sport you're in, the goal is to do that. So, Yankees, teams like that, getting another chance to win another World Series this season. But as to recap last night's sports, last night was a pretty good night in sports. Obviously, the Rangers took a tough loss last night. Our defense was terrible. I mean, we lose 4-3. It started out the gate. I think they had the first 5-6 shots on goal. You're missing Keandre Miller. You're without Keandre Miller. You're losing guys like that. Brendan Smith didn't play well. You're without Artemi Panarin. Just little things like this. I guess you could always take there's always a positive. Always out of negative. Everyone always looks at the negative side of things, but there's always there's always a positive that comes out of the negative. That's what many people say, that there's always going to be something positive, especially in sports. You might have a game full of negatives, but there's going to be a couple of positive points in that game. There's more games where there's a lot of negatives and maybe a couple positives. There's some games that there's about a half and half, but you just lost. Yesterday, I would say it was about half and half. There was a lot of negatives, but there was also a good amount of positives. Mika Zibanejad definitely had the best game of his season this year. Had 2 assists, got a really couple good shots on goal. I thought Igor Shesterkin, even though he allowed 4 goals, I thought he made some excellent saves, especially early in that game. I thought Chris Kreider with the hat trick, that's a positive right there. I just thought even the little stuff. Even I thought Lafreniere, even though he didn't score a goal, he had chances. I thought Colin Blackwell was doing what he usually does. Every shift he's playing it so hard. I thought he had another hard game. Some negatives was our defense, was our offensive pressure early in the game. We couldn't get any offensive pressure early in the game, and that makes a difference. Because when you're getting all this when everyone's pressuring you on defense and you can't get any offensive pressure, well, that's a problem. And I guess you could say a positive today was we as Rangers fans heard Philip Hedl is back on the ice playing. And he was a full participant today. So he's back playing today. Or I don't know if he'll be back next game, but he was a full participant today. That's a big loss on the defensive side of the puck, and to have him back is pivotal for the New York Rangers. We obviously lost him like the 3rd, 4th game of the season with the Penguins to an upper body injury. He missed about 46 weeks. It's been about a month now, maybe a little over a month, and he's back on the ice today, which was huge for the New York Rangers. So, there's always some positives, but once again, last night, just the defense, terrible. Jack Johnson, terrible. Brendan Smith didn't have a good game. Just the little things like this, the little players, just not enough to get the job done for the New York Rangers. These are the topics for today, though. We got Russell Wilson rumors and the NFL and the Jets. So Russell Wilson rumors are starting to heat up. Rumors are starting to, there's actually a true thing that came out today that the Russell Wilson camp, his agent, his agent, People that are close to Russell Wilson have talked to other teams, have supposedly open talks to other teams about a possible Russell Wilson trade. Obviously, the Seahawks sending Russell Wilson to somewhere else. We will see if that happens. I would put money on it that it doesn't happen, but it is definitely possible, I think. But I don't think it's going to happen. But obviously, things are starting to heat up. Many insiders believe he will get traded. I, however, don't. But I do think it would cause a couple interesting situations if he does. So we'll get into that. That was just breaking news a little bit ago. Then we got Big Ben Roethlisberger, whatever you want to name him, staying with the Steelers. The Steelers announced yesterday that they are going to stay with Big Ben. He is going to be their starting quarterback for this upcoming season. They said they will work with Ben to try to restructure his contract, give him a new offensive line, get him some more receivers and some more offensive weapons. I will tell you my side of this. I do not think this is a good idea for the Pittsburgh Steelers to bring back Big Ben, and I have a couple reasons. One main reason, but then I have a couple other supporting reasons why I think this is not a good decision for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure many of you guys do believe this as well. A lot of Steelers fans thought this was the end of the run, and I know a lot of Steelers fans out there actually kind of wanted to see a new quarterback come in here, so it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, but we'll get into that. Then we got college basketball, NBA, NHL, fantasy, and all that good stuff to wrap up the podcast. Rangers played yesterday. They got a day off today. The Nets obviously play today. Like I noted earlier on in the podcast, the Nets play today. The Knicks play today. Nets back at it with another game. Chance to make it 8 straight wins for the Brooklyn Nets. I would love to see that. Playing an opponent we beat early on in the season. So I'm feeling pretty confident about this game, and I think we have a good shot this game. I definitely think we have a good chance of winning this game. I definitely think there's definitely a very good possibility of us winning this game and making it 8 straight wins, which would be huge for the Brooklyn Nets. So, so with all that being said, this is the BSN Network podcast, and let's get right into it. So Russell Wilson trade rumors. Raiders, Dolphins amongst teams to deal for quarterback, linked to deal for quarterback. So there's been a couple teams. The Raiders, Dolphins, Saints, and Jets are among potential landing spot teams, or among teams that have come in contact with Russell Wilson, have contacted his agent, have contacted the Seahawks, and have said, obviously contacted them. Now, this could mean many different things. Contact doesn't mean you talk to them about a trade right away. It could have just been, is Russell Wilson available? And if they say, depending on what you give me, we will see. And then let's just say you say, what are you looking for? And they might say, a pick from this range and a player of this kind of guy and, this side of the ball, and I would like this position, kind of that kind of stuff. It's not like just because you contact someone, you pick up the phone, you call the other general manager, and you go ahead and say, hey. It's not like you just call them and go ahead and say, hey, I'll give you this deal. They're not going to do that. You got to take it step by step. So I guess you would say there's a couple steps involving a trade. The first is the linked part, which is what we're in now. It's about the part where teams are going to start to call up, teams are going to start to realize that he's open, and teams are going to start to look to try to build an offer. Then the next time is probably calling up and giving them offers. And then there will be a comeback offer, usually is the next step. And then finally, you might put, it's about 4 to 5 steps. You might put your final offer out on the table, and all of a sudden, then you got a contract, then you got a deal, and boom, just like that. Then the final step is the player getting traded to whichever team, whether that's the Saints, Raiders, Dolphins, or the Jets. So, this is an interesting situation for all these teams. What I first say is this. If you're going to personally ask me this, if you're going to ask me this question, do you believe Russell Wilson will be traded this offseason? If you had to ask me that, and I had to give you the right answer, I would go ahead and say right now, right this second, no, I don't think. And the reason I say that is because I just think that this rumor is true. I think it's definitely true that he has some stuff, but I don't believe the Seahawks are going to get rid of Russell Wilson. Saying that the Seahawks are going to get rid of Russell Wilson is just mind-boggling to me. I don't foresee it happening. Now, I've been wrong. I said that about many different players. I mean, we all thought Tom Brady would have retired as a New England Patriot. That's obviously not going to be the case. I mean, unless if he signs another deal there, but that's not going to happen. I don't even want to start that. We all said that Tom Brady's going to play with the Patriots his entire career. Guess what? He's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer now, right? just coming off fresh off of a Super Bowl, right? We've been wrong about a lot of these things. So I wouldn't be surprised that Russell Wilson would be traded. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm just saying I don't expect it to happen. Would I be surprised if it happens? No, because there's rumors right now. But do I think it's going to happen? No. Would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't be. Now, I know that might sound a little confusing because if you don't think it's going to happen, you'd probably be surprised. I wouldn't. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think a team's going to budge and try to get him or even the Seahawks. I mean, you got to just think about this. The Seahawks are trading Russell Wilson. This isn't just a player that does a lot on the field. All this stuff he's done for Seattle and all the off-the-field stuff is insane. He's done a lot there. So, for that, it's kind of like you just don't see Russell Wilson being, traded from the Seahawks. You just don't see that happen. Now, there's obviously frustration between the two, which is why I wouldn't be surprised. If this just randomly happened on a random day during the week, Russell Wilson gets traded, I would be surprised. But now that we're hearing these rumors, we're hearing there's some frustration, we're hearing there's some disagreements within Russell Wilson, his agents, the people close to Russell Wilson, and obviously, I've even heard that Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll's I even heard that Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll's relationship is a little risky right now and not the greatest. It's not glued together. There's a little bit of problems. But it's just an interesting situation because you got to wonder with Russell Wilson is, what's going to happen here? Are they really going to trade him or they aren't? So I just want to make that clear here. I don't know really if there's going to be a trade. I would probably say there's not just because of the way they're going to have to trade him and stuff, and I just don't foresee Russell Wilson not playing this is a guy in NFL history. It's a crazy stat. In NFL history, Russell Wilson has the most wins through 9 seasons in NFL history. He has 98 wins through 9 seasons. That's about 10.8 wins a year. Rounded up, that's about 11 wins per year since Russell Wilson joined the Seahawks. He's got more wins in 9 seasons than Tom Brady did in 9 seasons. Through the first 9 years of Russell Wilson's career, he's at 98 wins. Tom Brady, I think, is tied for third with like 85 or 87 wins, right? Russell Wilson is up there with some of the greats already through his first 9 seasons. To see that he is now going to get traded is just wild to me. And I'll tell you why. And I understand the relationship right now isn't great. There's definitely some problems. Russell Wilson voiced his concern on the offensive line. This is a guy last year that got the sack the most in the NFL. Okay, that is very not normal for Russell Wilson. Usually the Seahawks is a team that builds around their offensive line really good. And last season, for some odd reason, they just really struggled. And that's why I think part of the reason where Russell Wilson started to struggle is because you actually look at it. The amount of sacks he took through the first 5 weeks of the season, it was like double towards the end of the year. He was taking like 3-4 sacks a game towards the end of the year. Beginning of the season, he might have only took like 0 to 1 sacks a game. And that just goes to show you how important offensive line is. His first 5 games, MVP caliber. His last 5 to 10 games were not that good. They were average at best. And that's part of the reason because he was getting sacked 3 to 4 to even 5 times. I mean, against the Rams, he got sacked, 6-7 times in that playoff game. So he obviously got sacked the league high 51 times this season, and he's voiced his concerns on that. But here's the one thing where I think is what could slow this deal down if you are the Seattle Seahawks and you are an opposing team, is and this is the same thing that's happening in Houston right now, and that's happening with the Houston Texans and the Deshaun Watson situation, is what's going to happen there? How much are you going to want to give up for a player like that? You know the Texans are going to want a lot for Deshaun Watson. They're not just going to go ahead and say, hey, give me one player and I'll give you Deshaun Watson. Bill O'Brien isn't there anymore. Bill O'Brien is not there anymore. That's a new GM. And they've spoken. If they're going to trade him, they've already said they're going to want a lot in return. They're going to want multiple draft picks. They're going to want 1 to 2 players. They might want 3 to 4 picks, 2-3 first rounders, and a second, and maybe a player. They're going to want a lot because they're giving up that big of a piece. And I find this is the same exact situation with the Seattle Seahawks, and that's why this deal I feel like is going to be hard to get done if you're trying to trade for a guy. It's going to be a lot of draft picks you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to give up a lot of draft picks. I would assume 3 first-round picks. I mean, even if that's stretching across the next 3 drafts, even if it's 3 years from now, it's a first-round pick, I would assume it's going to be 3 first-round picks, maybe a 4th, and probably an early second, and then get a player. And maybe that player could be another quarterback. Maybe that player could be a receiver. Maybe that player could be an offensive lineman, because that's what the Seahawks need right now. Whatever the case may be, the Seahawks are going to want a lot in return, and that's why I feel like that this deal could be slowing down a bit. Because sometimes you got to take it. You got to look at it this way. Would you rather draft a quarterback or stick with your quarterback and have all this room and all these draft picks, have all these different picks, and have all these different players you could move around him and all of this cap space? Or would you rather trade a lot of that draft space away, bring in an amazing quarterback, and maybe not be able to add around him as much? That's a question you got to ask. And that's where it puts the Jets in a complicated situation. Because this is a Jets team who does need a lot of work. This is not a team that just needs a quarterback. This is not a team that just needs a quarterback. This is not a team that just needs a cornerback. A quarterback and a QB or a cornerback. This is not the Jets. The Jets need both of those. The Jets could use another receiver. The Jets could use a running back. The Jets could use another offensive line. The Jets could use a lot. The Jets could definitely use a lot. And I think I've said it on podcasts, and I know many people watching these videos, and I know many people believe this as well. With our new head coaching hire, the New York Jets, we, as Jets fans, we finally can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There is finally, the future of this team is bright for the New York Jets. We are finally turning the corner. We are finally, moving in the right direction. All these years we've been taking steps back. Every year we take a step back, a step back, a step back. And we are finally taking multiple steps forward with our new hire of our head coach and all this cap space we have and all these draft picks. So that could cause a problem. Is if you're going to give up all these draft picks and get Russell Wilson, you might only have room for one or two players. But that doesn't fill all the needs. So do you go ahead and say, hey, I'm not going to go out and get this big name player. I'm going to go out and fill all these little needs. That's the one little thing. That's the one little problem with Russell Wilson in this trade here. Is you're going to have the Seahawks are going to want a lot in return. And I mean, I don't blame them. They're giving up Russell Wilson. They're going to want a lot in return. They're not just going to go ahead and say, hey, you know what, they're not just going to, it's not like a team's going to offer and say, hey, we're going to give you this pick and this player and you better accept it. No, they're going to want a lot more than that. First off, if they get rid of Russell Wilson, they're going to want that pick. That first round pick that they get is probably going to be a quarterback, especially if it's this draft. Quarterbacks like Fields, quarterbacks like Wilson, quarterbacks like Trey Lance, quarterbacks like Mac Jones, quarterbacks like Kyle Trask, right? All those different quarterbacks, right? They're gonna want those picks to be quarterbacks probably. They're gonna want that one of those picks to be a quarterback. So would you rather give up that pick and a lot of other stuff and get Wilson, or go out and get a bunch of decent players but not that high of a Wilson? It's a question a lot of these GMs have got to ask. And that's why blockbuster deals are rare to see. That's why they call them a blockbuster. Because they're not common to see. They're very rare. And they're very rare. They're very rare to see. You very rarely see a blockbuster deal. A blockbuster trade. I mean, they're common. I shouldn't say they're rare. But I mean, they're not like your regular, like a blockbuster trade right now would be Wilson traded. James Harden from the Texans to the Rockets to the Nets. That was a blockbuster trade. Wilson, if he would to get traded, Watson, if he would to get traded, that would be a blockbuster trade. Now, let's just say the Jets deal, I don't know, Will Darnold to another team, probably not a blockbuster trade because it's Darnold, it's not as big as the name. Let's just say let's just say the Jets trade, one of their receivers or one of their running backs for another, like a pick or two. That's not a blockbuster trade. A blockbuster trade is when you move the big names. Like this isn't gonna happen. But let's say, for example, like a blockbuster trade would be like, I shouldn't say this is not gonna happen because there's a chance. But this isn't gonna happen. But an example of a blockbuster trade would be like a Tom Brady getting traded to the Seahawks for Russell Wilson. That would be it's not going to happen, but that would be your example of a blockbuster trade. Trading two big stars, and there's a lot going on in trade. Blockbuster trades could be 3-4 team trades, like the Nets. Depot got moved, Harden obviously got moved. Like, there's so many different moving parts, right? That's why I think this trade isn't going to go down, is because there's going to be so many different moving parts. It's going to be Wilson going here. Some teams getting this pick. You're getting this pick. Like, so many moving parts. But realistically, all you end up with is Russell Wilson. And I would love to have Russell Wilson. If I'm a Jets fan, I would love to. But it also comes down to what? You got to choose. Do you want to give up a ton of picks and a ton of players for Wilson? Or do you want to, build around a quarterback that you draft, just bring him into a brand new system? What do you got to do? That's a choice. Joe Douglas, this front office has got to make for the New York Jets. And now I'm not just saying with the Jets, but even these other teams, the Raiders, the Dolphins, the Saints, the Jets, obviously, right? There's 4 teams so far: the Dolphins, Raiders, Saints, Jets. All those teams are in need of quarterback. Raiders really aren't. I shouldn't say the Raiders aren't. I shouldn't say the Dolphins are in need of a quarterback. Not the Raiders, they definitely could use a change. Derek Carr's all right, nothing special. Saints, obviously, Drew Brees is probably going to retire. So, Drew Brees probably going to retire. I don't think if I was the Saints, I would not trust Winston. Jets obviously could use a quarterback, depending on what we do with Darnold. Darnold, I don't think is going to be starting for us next season. I think it's going to be someone else. The Dolphins are one of these teams on the list. Is like I think the Dolphins. The only way they get Wilson if it's like not like Tua is going to be in that deal. Tua would be in that deal. But that's the thing. Like the Dolphins. Like I just like Tua had 1 year. Like I think you gotta give him a little bit more of a chance. But we'll see how it all plays out. Like I said, you can't just base him off of 1 year. Oh, he stinks. Now let's bring in another quarterback. Oh, you're bringing that other quarterback into that same exact situation. That's why sometimes these trades don't happen often. But that's the problem. Is I just don't know if the Seahawks are gonna budge. I don't know if we know that there's definitely issues there. That's a fact. That's a fact. We've heard it. Russell Wilson has said it. Russell Wilson has literally came out and said that he's not too happy with the situation. Now, does that mean he is going to get traded? No, that just means that there's got to be some stuff that's going to be fixed. And can I picture Russell Wilson requesting a trade? I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, if you're telling me right now Russell Wilson's going to request a trade, I wouldn't be surprised. But Russell Wilson really requesting a trade? I mean, he's getting paid a ton of money there. He's got an extension. He's getting paid a lot. I mean, I think the Seahawks are going to try to work this thing out. And if this is going to be a trade, then they're going to have to trade one of these picks, or there's going to be an offensive line. If it's going to be a big deal, it's not going to be we'll give you this washed up old player for Russell. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a big, big deal. And if it happens, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of picks, a lot of players for Russell Wilson, and maybe someone else. But, who knows? I mean, who knows? Maybe this is the first stage of a breakup. Maybe even if Russell Wilson doesn't get traded this offseason, maybe this is the first step into a possible breakup. Let's say Russell Wilson doesn't get traded this offseason. Things seem to be okay, although realistically there's still a little bit of friction between the two. And go into the season, let's just say they finish 7-9, miss the playoffs. Russell Wilson leads the league in sacks again. Or to be more realistic, because the Seahawks are a lot better than a 7-9 team, let's say the Seahawks finish 11-5, make the wildcard game, get knocked out first round, and get knocked out first round and lose to another underdog, and something like that happens again, and Russell Wilson is again at the top of the league in sacks. Well, then maybe you could sit here and say, okay, well now it's a trade. Maybe this is the first stage of a trade down the road. Maybe not this offseason, maybe next offseason. If they have another early exit in the playoffs, if they don't build around the offensive line enough. That's why one thing is Russell Wilson wants his offensive line to be built better. So what if the Seahawks have to wait and free agent and build this offensive line? Then would that change this whole thing? That's why I think teams are going to call now. Teams are going to want deals now. Because they know once they get an offensive line, once they get a couple good offensive linemen that go over there, Wilson ain't leaving. Once that offensive line's repaired, Wilson will be okay. So we'll see how it plays out. Russell Wilson trade rumors. Raiders, Dolphins among teams linked to a deal for quarterback. Representatives for the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, have reportedly broached the idea of trade with teams' front office amid quarterback's rising frustration. Michael Sean Duggar, Mike Sando, and J.C. Jenks of The Athletic reported Thursday the Las Vegas Raiders, Miami Dolphins, New Orleans Saints, and New York Jets are among the potential landing spots for the 8-time Pro Bowl selection. According to the Athletic report, some people around the league think a trade could happen, if not this offseason, then sometime in the near future. And that's what I just said about just now. I literally just said this now. And I said, this might be the first step in a trade down the road. Maybe not this offseason, maybe next offseason. And maybe, maybe you request a trade. Maybe mid-year, maybe gets injured and, they're paying him for whatever. Maybe you request a trade. Maybe he wants out. Whatever the case may be. This might be the first step in, problems forming. A lot of times this is how it happens. Like the Texans last season when they traded DeAndre Hopkins, Watson, that was really the first step of Watson wanting out of there. He played through the season. They stunk. They went 4-12. They did terrible. Now they have no communication with Watson. Now it's requesting a trade. That's what I feel like what could happen here. This could be the first step. Mark this. Mark that now. Mark this right now. Mark that this could be happening here. And if it happens next season, we can mark this day as this is really when the whole trade situation started. So we'll see how it plays out, but it's going to be really interesting. Buzz around Wilson's potential availability started on Super Bowl Sunday when CBS Sports Jason Lockenfor reported the Hawks' inability inability to fix the offensive line in front of him, and his desire to maximize the opportunity to win consistently made him a trade candidate. The 32-year-old was the University of Wisconsin product. They then went on a media tour where he was asked about the building speculation and confirmed aspects of Lockenfor's report, saying he was frustrated the Seahawks weren't in the Super Bowl and wasn't happy with the production. Like any player, you never want to get hit. That's the reality of the playing the position. Ask any quarterback who wants to play this game, Wilson told reporters. I've been sacked almost 400 times, so we've got to get better up front. I've got to find ways to get better too. That said, the Super Bowl 48 champion added, I loved playing for Seattle. I loved it for years. Wilson is coming off of another terrific season in 2020. He completed 68.8% of his throws for 4,212 yards with 40 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in 16 games. He ranked 8th in ESPN's total QBR, 73.5, and received a high-end 90.3 overall grade from Pro Football Focus. If available, he'd challenge the Houston Texans' Deshaun Watson as top NFL player who could be traded during the offseason. Wilson is under contract with the Seahawks through 2023 on a 4-year, $140 million deal. His full no-trade clause means he could pick and choose where he'd be willing to play. A trade would leave $39 million in dead cap space for Seattle, though. It could split over the next 2 years, $13 million in 2021 and $26 million in 2022, if designated a post-June 1st move. That's still significant financial commitment, while also trading away one of the league's best quarterbacks. For that reason, it's hard to imagine the Seahawks will move Wilson this offseason. But it's clear some issues must be ironed out. And like I said, do I think it's going to happen? No. Would I be surprised with all these reports and stuff? Not really, but there's so much money involved in this. And just the fact that, trading Russell Wilson just doesn't even seem like it would be, you would even think about that. So, like I said, I've said this so many times here. We'll see how it plays out. But this could very well be the first step in a future move. Maybe not a move that's going to happen this offseason, but maybe a move that happens next offseason. Maybe a move where he requests a trade. It could be anything. Maybe if he has another high sack season, he just goes ahead and tells the coaches and tells the GM, I'm done. I'm done here. I'm done. Maybe he just does that. Not quit, but maybe next season, if he's getting sacked again 3-4 times a game, maybe after the season's done and they have another early exit, he might just go up to Pete Carroll. Maybe he just goes up to GM and says, I'm done. Trade me. I don't want to be here. And tell him, if you don't trade me, I'm not playing this offseason. Maybe that's what happens. Is it going to happen this offseason? I don't know. Is it going to happen next offseason? I don't know. Is he going to be a Seahawk his whole career? I don't know. Is he going to be on another team? I don't know. There's so many different questions. That's the problem with this. There's so many different questions. There's some answers, but there's not enough. There's so many questions. There's only a couple answers. Too many questions, though. An answer, we know that there's definitely some. We know that there's some friction there. But that can happen. There always can be some friction. Contracting, there always can be some friction. There can always be some friction. So we know there's some friction there. We know Wilson isn't happy. And like I said, this isn't just people thinking that he isn't. He literally came on our show and said he wasn't happy with the offensive line. I read the exact quotes. So we know Wilson isn't happy. Is the rumor saying that Wilson would be interested? He has a no-trade clause, which means he gets to choose if he wants to trade, and he gets to choose where he would want to play. He's definitely up there. He has a no-trade clause. So, if he wants to get traded, he can choose. Even if that's the thing with this. It almost gives the players control. If they don't like the deal, he might go ahead and say, hey, I want to go here. Like that, right? Yeah, that's the one big thing, though. It's going to be really interesting. But, there's too many questions, not enough answers at this point for me to really firmly say he's going to get traded. We know there's friction. We know he's not happy with the offensive line. But a question could be even this would make it more intriguing if the Seahawks come out, or even if the insiders say that the Seahawks want this in return for Wilson. Then that means that they're obviously in talks. That obviously means that they've told teams and told other general managers this is what they want. That right there, that would help us out a lot. But we haven't heard from that. We've only heard that there's some friction. We've heard that Wilson's not happy. A question could be how many picks, how many players, what do you want for him? And, are you going to trade Wilson? That's another thing. If Seahawks said they're open to trading him, that's big. So far, the Seahawks haven't technically said that. The Wilson camp, people close to Wilson would be open for a trade. He would be open. Now, he hasn't requested a trade. He would be open to a trade. Saying if they try to trade him, he would be okay with it. And he's obviously showing frustration. That's why it's so tough. Just too many questions, not enough answers right now on Thursday, February 25th. A couple weeks from now, we might have all the answers in the world. We might be following all these teams putting in some of the bids for them. But right now, Thursday, February 25th, there's too many questions about this and not enough answers. So, and Russell Wilson, obviously, he hasn't demanded a trade yet. He hasn't asked for a trade. But he said he would consider, the Cowboys, Saints, Raiders, Bears, if deals in play. And obviously, the Jets as well. So, he hasn't demanded a trade yet. He hasn't asked for a trade. That's where I don't want people to take this and run with it. Because I know there's some people out there that might take this and run with it. That's not true. He hasn't asked for a trade yet. He's open to a trade. If they trade him, he would be open to it. He would be okay with it. There's not going to be anything bad there. But I know some people might twist it a little bit here and say he's open to a trade. Say things like that. So it looks like now the only teams you would want to go to is the Cowboys, Saints, Raiders, and Bears. And I guess if the Jets offer the right deal. But he has not demanded a trade. So it's a developing story. So there's another answer. Okay, we're gaining answers. There's your other answer. Now you find out that he hasn't demanded a trade. Okay, there's an answer. Sometimes players go in, demand a trades, and we don't even know. And then they trade him, and then down the road they find out that they did request a trade. Sometimes organizations do it that way. Houston, for example, though, Watson was more public about it, was more public about it and stuff. Some players aren't as public about it. Some players will request a trade, and the organization will do nothing. While others, like Watson, they're more public about it. So we'll see how it goes. But I think this is this is definitely developing, and this is definitely something that we're gonna have to follow. Because I guess there's definitely still a chance here that he can get traded. So we'll see how it goes. I'll tell you, no matter what team he goes for, it would make for an intriguing podcast the next day he gets traded. It would make for an intriguing story. It would be. I mean, it would make for an exciting season next year. Like, let's say he goes to a Bears. Like, are the Bears automatic, true contenders? Let's just say he goes to, the Cowboys, he's not going to unless if they don't sign Dak. Like I said, there's so many questions. Okay, so if he's going to the Cowboys, then what does Dak go? Then what happens to Dak? If he's going to the Bears, then what do they do with Trubisky? There's so many questions currently. That's why you don't want to buy too into this, but you also got to look at it as, okay, we haven't heard this. Since Russell Wilson stepped on the field in Seattle, we haven't heard any trade things. We haven't heard any of it. Neither have we heard Watson, but Watson's starting to heat up. Watson actually requested a trade. Houston has said that they don't want to trade him, but they said that, they're going to listen to offers, but they said that they don't want to trade him, but they'll listen. They'll listen. They've said that. The GM has publicly came out and said that. The Seahawks haven't done much yet. So, we'll see. But coming up next, Big Ben is staying with the Steelers. The Steelers are going to keep Big Ben this season. I will tell you why this is not good for the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up next. Let's see. I mean, even as crazy as it may sound, but I mean, that's another thing too, is yesterday a report came out that Ian Rappaport reported that they're going to just be that, how should I word it here? Yesterday they even reported that there hasn't been much talks between quarterbacks. Like, the quarterback market has kind of slowed down a little bit, but it's just, I don't know. It's interesting. So, by the way, a report came out today that the Giants and Leonard Williams remain far apart, aren't close to reaching a long-term deal. So, that could be a move there. I very well might talk about that tomorrow there. But that could very well be something here. There's so much stuff. But let's get to this Big Ben story. Let's get to this Big Ben story. Okay, so Big Ben, Steelers want Ben Roethlisberger back, will work on new contract, says Rooney II. So obviously Art Rooney is, I believe, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they will be bringing back long-term quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. That's at least what it sounds like, that they will be bringing Ben Roethlisberger back. They will be working on a new contract with Ben Roethlisberger. This is an interesting situation because the Pittsburgh Steelers are in an interesting situation. We all know how the Steelers went last season. They started off 11-0. They did great. They weren't even. I mean, I personally didn't believe they were that good all along. Sure enough, they got knocked out first round to the Cleveland Browns, who ended up losing to the Chiefs, who ended up losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As obviously each round goes by and stuff. So, obviously last season for the Pittsburgh Steelers was a very odd year. They started off 11-0. I know many fans were happy. Everyone was saying this is a Super Bowl team. This team's win it all. The defense, Ben Roethlisberger gets hot, everything like that. They're amazing. And then I think really, and this almost goes back to my Wilson thing. Like, today could be the start of a frisky relationship for the next year or so. And this is what I think happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers, is they lost to the Washington football team. They lost to Washington, which then moved them to 11-1. And actually, Washington now is going to change their name to another name. But they changed they lost to Washington, and then obviously they lost to Washington, and that's, I feel like, ever since that game, everything went down for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They went downhill. They ended up losing in the playoffs. They ended up looking bad. They lost to the Bengals. They lost to Washington. They had some really, really terrible losses. They looked lost. They definitely looked very lost. They lost to the Bills then. They were losing to teams left and right. I mean, they were losing to teams left and right. They didn't even look like they should be at a playoff team. They were, though. Everything that could go wrong for the Pittsburgh Steelers was going wrong. And that's where we are today in this situation where there's wondering is what's going to happen with Big Ben, and are the Steelers going to get rid of Big Ben? Are they going to keep him? Or are the Steelers going to go ahead and say, you know what? Time to move on. We're bringing in a new quarterback. We're getting in a new guy, and we're going to start over here. And they obviously signed Dwayne Haskins this offseason, which definitely started some talk around, okay, do they think they could fix Haskins? They're going to give Big Ben a new offense. Do they think they could build around Haskins? Do they think this and that? And to be honest, I didn't think the idea was terrible. Do I think Dwayne Haskins is good? No, he's awful. But I didn't think the idea was terrible of at least giving Dwayne Haskins a second chance. Now, This is the problem with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I feel like the Steelers are too caught up into Ben Roethlisberger, how long he's been here. Ben Roethlisberger is not the answer for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is not the answer for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is not a good move by the Pittsburgh Steelers to try to work out a new contract. Ben Roethlisberger, I'll listen to both sides of it. You can make the argument for why this is a good move. You can make the argument for why this is a bad move. I will always stand strongly on they should not bring Ben Roethlisberger back. And I'll tell you why. First of all, last season, Ben Roethlisberger wasn't that good. He came off of a big arm injury with the Tommy John. He was playing amazing the first couple games, and he went downhill. And he looked terrible. And it's almost like right when he went downhill, the Steelers started to went downhill. Which means that they should just start over. He was coming off of a terrible injury, and he's getting older now, and he just didn't look good. He didn't look good. He didn't look good at all. He started the season off decent, and then he ended the season awful. And obviously, ultimately, it resulted in a wild card loss to the Cleveland Browns. And that creates where we are now today with trying to get him a new contract. I wouldn't give Ben Roethlisberger a new contract. I wouldn't. And I know a lot of people, Ben Roethlisberger, been there for a long time. He's been there for a long time, and he's been a fan favorite, and he's gone us to Super Bowl. Him and Mike Tomlin, we can't break this up yet. This team's going pretty good still. No, you should break it up now. Bringing Ben Roethlisberger back is not the right answer. Sometimes NFL franchises, and this isn't just in the NFL, this is in the MLB, this is in the NHL, and this is even in the NBA. Sometimes franchises get too caught up in bringing back that player than trying to truly build a championship roster. This is when the situation the Steelers are in right now. They're too busy. Bring Ben Roethlisberger back. He's been with us for a long... No, you should not bring Ben Roethlisberger back. You should look towards the future. Get a new quarterback. Bring him into the new offensive system. Build around this offensive line. You got to realize, people, working out a contract with Ben Roethlisberger, a guy who's going to retire in a couple of years, is not the right decision. People, Ben Roethlisberger, he's going to retire soon. He's not going to be playing for another 10, 15 years. He's going to retire soon. And to all those people out there who think that he is the answer for this team, that can't be true. Look at the numbers. Where did he get this team last season? They got smoked in the playoffs. And who? Who threw the 4 or 5 interceptions? Ben Roethlisberger. Who made the most mistakes that game? Ben Roethlisberger. Who looked ugly that game? Ben Roethlisberger. Who looked ugly all season? Ben Roethlisberger. Who is really the cause of that team's downfall down the stretch? Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, this is a guy, it's time to move on if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Enough of Big Ben's a fan favorite. We all love him. He got a Super Bowl. No. Enough of that. That's not right. You should bring in a new quarterback. And I'm not saying Dwayne Haskins should be your new quarterback. Now, is he terrible? Yes. But, can it really hurt? Bringing in a new quarterback in a new system? It's not. It's a low-risk deal. You signed to a 2-year deal? So, if I was the Steelers right now, I would not bring back Ben Roethlisberger. I would bring in someone new. Ultimately, hope they can get the job done and start fresh. Because the Steelers right now are on the verge of a huge, very huge rebuild. They've got a lot of older players. Some of them retired. And Ben Roethlisberger is one of them. And Ben Roethlisberger should not return to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, do I like his returning? Yeah, because I don't like the Steelers. I like to see them fail. And I don't think they're going to be good under Ben Roethlisberger. And all these Steelers fans out there can go ahead and say, hey, we made the playoffs last season. Yeah, you were 11-0 team. 11-0 team should be the clear favorite. 11-0 team should be the clear favorite. And you went in as just a team that was flat out terrible. Steelers want Ben Roethlisberger back. Will work on new contracts, says Rooney. Pittsburgh Steelers president Art Rooney released a statement Wednesday saying he held a productive meeting with quarterback Ben Roethlisberger where the sides shared mutual interest in restructuring his contract to keep him with the franchise for the 2021 NFL season. This is the statement from the Steelers president Art Rooney. I'll quickly read this. Ben Roethlisberger and I met yesterday morning and we had a productive meeting. We were able to discuss a lot of things that relate to where we are and where we want to be and go. Ben assured me that he is committed to coming back to help us win, and I told Ben that he would like to have him back, that I would like to have him back, that we would like to have him back to help us win a championship. We both understand that the next step is to work on Ben's contract situation. So that was the statement from Art Rooney, the Steelers president, and that's not good for really. I truly think that. Ryan Tollner, Big Ben's agent, told NFL Network's Adita Kinyuwala after Tuesday's discussions, the 38-year-old signal caller's fire burns strong, and they're ready to help the Steelers creatively adjust his contract. Ben Roethlisberger will indeed be back as a Steelers starting quarterback this fall. Just connected with two-time Super Bowl winners agent Ryan Tollner, who said this: they want Big Ben back. This is Ben Roethlisberger's agent who's saying this, by the way. They want Big Ben back, and will contact me soon to address his cap situation. As we've shared since the season ended, we are happy to creatively adjust his contract to help them build the best team possible. A year ago, Ben wasn't sure if he could throw again, but he battled back to get 12 wins in the 8th division title of his career. They lost steam down the stretch, and that doesn't sit well for him. So the fire burns strong, and there is plenty of gas in the tank. I don't believe that. That's coming from his agent, but I mean, who knows? Maybe it is true. Roethlisberger posted another strong statistical season in 2020, completing 65.6% of his passes for his throws for 3,803 yards with 33 touchdowns and 10 interceptions across 15 appearances. And it's good, but it's not. You get a young quarterback in there with a young offense and a new receiving core and a new offense lineman, that team could be so much better. But, the Steelers sometimes I feel like are all, no. Steelers should not be bringing back Big Ben, but that's just my opinion. However, his arm strength seemed to diminish during the later stage of the regular season. Analytics didn't rate him as well as the numbers would suggest. He's ranked 22nd in ESPN's total QBR, 60.1, and he received a mediocre 69 overall grade from Pro Football Focus. Taking Week 17 off before the Steelers' playoff appearance to help rest his arm as he bounced back to complete an NFL playoff record 47 passes in a wildcard round loss to the Cleveland Browns. He connected on 4 touchdowns, but also threw 4 picks in 48-37 season-ending defeat. His 2-year, $68 million contract includes a $41.25 million cap hit for 2021, which is unsustainable for the team that already overprojected salary cap for next season. It sounds like Pittsburgh has decided to make at least one more run with Roethlisberger leading the offense, and perhaps a full offseason of rest can help revitalize his arm after he spent last offseason rehabbing following elbow surgery that ended his 2019 season after 2 games. His expected return shouldn't defer the front office from trying to find a quarterback of the future. It already took a flyer on former Washington football team first-round pick Dwayne Haskins, who was released after less than 2 seasons following poor play off-the-field problems. Taking another QB in the middle rounds of the draft would make sense. Roethlisberger's play next season will determine whether he has a chance to return for 2022 and beyond. Or if it's time to begin a new era under center in Pittsburgh. A strong year for Big Ben could put the Steelers among the chief Super Bowl contenders in the AFC. Strong year, though. It's the problem. Big Ben, he's older now. He's not going to have those strong seasons like he used to have. I don't think this is a good move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's time to move on. It's time to look at a new quarterback, right? It's okay to look ahead and get a new guy. It's okay. You can change things up. It doesn't have to be the same quarter. And that would be different. I mean, it's going to be odd when Ben Roethlisberger's out of there. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with Ben Roethlisberger and what really ultimately happens with the Steelers team, after this season. Because, sure, they could sign him back now, but if this doesn't work, they got themselves in a problem. This could work, and they could be great, and it could work flawlessly. But if it doesn't work, they're going to have themselves in a deep, deep, deep problem. Let's get into the college basketball NBA side of things here. So in college basketball today, yesterday, Arkansas won, Creighton won, Tennessee won, Florida State won, North Carolina State won. In some of today's games. So, Michigan versus Iowa, I'll give Michigan the win. Illinois, Nebraska, I'll give Illinois the win. Gonzaga, Santa Clara, I'll give Gonzaga the win. Houston, Western Kentucky, I'll give Houston the win. San Diego State, Boise State, I'll give San Diego State the win. Ohio State, Michigan State, I'll give Ohio State the win. And Colorado, USC, I will give Colorado the win. Colorado the win there. As for the NBA today, and yesterday, the Jazz won, Hornets won, Heat won, Bulls won, Pelicans won, Warriors won, Thunder won, Hawks won, and Cavaliers and the Cavs won. Today we've got a couple games on today. 76ers, Mavericks, I'll give 76ers the win. Knicks, Kings, I'll give Knicks the win. Grizzlies, Clippers, Grizzlies, I'll give Clippers the win. Nuggets, Wizards, give Nuggets the win. And Bucks, Pelicans, give Bucks the win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 21-12. Magic come in this game 13-19. Nets are 9-point favorites. The over-under is 229. This game comes on at today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Yes Network. I'll give the Nets the win. They're 9-point favorites. They're on a roll. They're on a 7-game win streak. Make that 8 games tonight. I'll give the Nets the win there. Just got to continue to play well. We've been playing very well on the offense side of the ball, and Bruce Brown, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, guys like that. Got to just keep stepping up and making big plays. So I'll give the Nets the win. As for yesterday in the NHL, the Coyotes won, Wild won, Maple Leafs won, Stars won, Lightning won, and Kings won. Rangers lost yesterday 4-3. We moved to 6-8-3 on the season. I mean, 3 goals by Chris Kreider wasn't enough. Just wasn't enough for us. This is just a team that's got to be better. Got to be better on defense. That's another thing too. I mean, if you wanna win, we got to be better on defense and too many costly penalties. I mean, there was like the too many men on the ice penalty is just terrible. I mean, you can't have that. That's terrible. And that hurts us. That hurt us. So we got to find a way to get better with this young team and find a way to get back on track. For the games today in the NHL, Blue Jackets, Blackhawks, give Blue Jackets the win. Bruins, Islanders, give Bruins the win. Sabres, Devils, give Sabres the win. Senators, Flames, give Flames the win. Hurricanes, Lightning, give Lightning the win. Penguins, Capitals, give Penguins the win. Stars, Panthers, give Panthers the win. Red Wings, Predators, give Predators the win. Canadians, Jets, give Canadians the win. Oilers, Canucks, give Oilers the win. Golden Knights, Sharks, give Golden Knights. Actually, no, that game got postponed. And then Oilers, Canucks, give Oilers the win. And as for fantasy, going pretty well in both fantasy leagues. Fantasy basketball, I am currently winning 704 to 436, so going pretty good there. Today I've got going Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Jonas Valanciunas, and that's all. Injury report's pretty clean. Oladipo and Kyle Lowry both played yesterday, and AD's still out. So for the most part, the injury report's better there. And I'm winning in fantasy hockey 44 to 37, so going pretty good there. Today I've got going Jack Eichel, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Jamie Benn, Johnny Gaudreau, Nicholas Backstrom, Brock Beausire, Nick Ehlers, Joe Pavelski, Jeff Petrie, Ryan Ellis, Duncan Keith, Shea Weber, Adam Larson, Shea Theodore, and goalies I got Jacob Markstrom and Semyon Varlamov going, although Markstrom is still out. Markstrom upper body isn't expected. This is the injury report. Markstrom upper body isn't expected to suit up for Thursday's game versus the Senators. Pat Steinberg of Sportsnet 960, The Fan, reports. So he's still out there. But for the most part there, I'll tell you what, hockey, as crazy as hockey sport is, the injuries haven't been too bad on that front. It's been basketball I got pounded. And yesterday, Jeremy Grant and Kemba both didn't play as they rested up. But there was a moment on my lineup yesterday before the games all started. Oladipo was out. Anthony Davis was out. Kyle Lowry was out. Jeremy Grant was day-to-day because he got rest. And then Kemba Walker was also day-to-day because he rest. And I was like, I was like, really? I've got 2 guys day-to-day, 3 guys out. I'm like, wow, this is my fantasy basketball team right now. Sure enough, Kyle Lowry and Victor Oladipo ended up playing in their respective games. But, I was like, really? This is what I'm working with here? And when I heard that both Jeremy Grant and Kemba Walker were day-to-day, I was like, oh, gosh, what now? Because Jeremy Grant, he's had a very good year. He's very good season. And I drafted him late, too. He's had a very successful year for me, not even just in fantasy front, but in the NBA. He's a guy that's, you could say, one of the better forwards in the league this very good season. And I drafted him late, too. He was the guy that was about to go undrafted, and I picked him up because we do a league where if you miss a basket, it's minus 1 point. So I picked him up because he had a high shooting percentage. So I decided, you know what, this guy's going to give me a good amount of points, and sure enough, he's been really good this season. I don't know if it's because of the move from Indiana to Detroit or if he's getting more of an increased role with the Pistons, whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, it's working. It's working for him. It's working for my fantasy team, which is really good. But when I saw that, I was like, really? You got to be kidding me. I've got all these players out right now. And then I saw it was just rest, and I was like, okay. It still made me mad because as many points I can get, I love to get them. But, at the end of the day, I'm winning by a lot, and, if everything continues to go well and my team continues to put up a lot of points, I'll be on my way to my second straight win. So I can't complain too much. It's not like my team is pounded with injuries and I'm below 500 and I'm struggling. I'm still above 500. I'm still winning games. I'm still doing good. So I can't complain too much. But there's still that little bit of me that's like, you know what? Why? If I don't draft this guy, hindsight 2020, right? It's always how it is. You always go back and critique yourself. So we'll see how it all plays out in fantasy. But yeah, with all that being said, that'll do it for the podcast today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Another very good podcast. Sports have been rolling. Sports have been rolling. And it's really, 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 really good to, it's going to be really good to, it's going to be good to see baseball back. It's going to be good to see what happens this NFL offseason. And going to be good to see how the remainder of the NBA and NHL seasons play out. So that should be good. With all that being said, that will do it, like I said. So I will see you all back here tomorrow with another good podcast. So I'll see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.